All right, Christmas is right around the corner and you might need some last minute gift ideas for that special woodworker in your life. So let's just get right into it. All of these items can be found at a dollar store, and there's some pretty good stuff at a dollar store you can get for a woodworker that maybe you don't think about and maybe they haven't thought about. So the first item I've got here, I'm going to try and go through as if I was doing a project. The first thing is some kind of a sketchbook, and this one's a regular 8.5 by 11 sketchbook. I like or prefer the hardcover ones because that way if you're standing up around the shop somewhere, you can just write on it and you don't have to fumble around with something flexible like a paperback if you haven't got a bench handy to put it on. Now, you might want to sketch projects in here. I've got some projects on the go here. I'm kind of designing like maybe a sofa table. I've got a entryway bench for my mom, a charcuterie board on here. Maybe that special woodworker in your life wants to build something like maybe like a whiskey cabinet. I've got that on the go. Or if you just like to sketch like I did the other night, heck, draw a picture of a lion or even a crazy picture of a cat. I don't know why I drew a picture of a cat. I don't like cats, but I was asked to draw a cat, so there it is. But anyways, item number one, a sketchbook. Great for sketching out plans and ideas when you're trying to get things set up for your next project. Item number two is some chalk. Simple chalk. White chalk will do. Nice and cheap at the dollar store. You can use this to mark out project pieces on your rough sawn lumber, even if you want to try and mark out certain areas where the grain's really, really nice, or mark off knot holes or checks in the boards. Super handy to have some chalk, and it just wipes right off with a damp rag or even a dry one. Item number three, a drip tray for your kitchen. Super, super useful if you are somebody that uses hand tools, or if that special somebody that you know that does woodworking uses hand tools, because you can use this to catch any water if you're sharpening chisels and plane blades, for example. And it kind of goes hand in hand with item number four, which I'll tell you about right now, which is just some shelf or drawer liner, because you can cut it into little strips like this, put it onto your drip tray, put your sharpening stone on it, and now it's not going to move when you go back and forth with a chisel or a plane blade. So these two items are great, even if you have some of the shelf liner sitting on your bench, nice and handy. So if you don't want to mark your bench up when you set tools down, you can just set a tool on that shelf liner. Super handy stuff to have around in the shop, or to put underneath of a project piece if you're sanding it with a random orbit sander, because it'll really prevent that item from slipping around on your bench. So items 3 and 4 kind of go hand in hand there, and number 5 kind of does as well. So let's get right into number 5. Number 5 is a random container that you can store your water stones in. So sharpening gear, you got to keep those water stones always wet and soaked all the time so they're ready to go. If you don't know if that special somebody uses water stones to sharpen with, just ask them. Just say, hey, how do you sharpen your chisels or plane blades? And they'll probably tell you enough to know if you want to spend a couple bucks on a plastic container so they can put some of their water stones in. The next item, I think I've kind of lost track, but I think it's number 6. You can quite often buy a metal ruler, like a yardstick. A little more handy sometimes than a tape measure, because you can actually get that to sit nice and flat against your workpiece, and you don't have to worry about it retracting into the tape measure. Yeah, tape measures have locks on them, but they just don't sit flat on a project piece, or if you're hanging it off the end, it's just going to fall over unless you've got another piece to support it further down the line. So a nice flat ruler like that works great. Item number 7. Let's just go with some green painter's tape. Nice and cheap at the dollar store. You can use that, tear off a piece, label some of your project parts, and keep track of things just by making little notes for yourself around the shop. Number 7, I believe we're up to. Just some kind of broom to wipe off tabletops, bench tops, machines, or even just a cheap paintbrush to get any dust and things off of different machines you might have around the shop or off of projects. And great for sweeping stuff into a dustpan as well. Super handy to have. The next item is a bunch of little brushes. They usually come in sets of like 3 or 6, and you're gonna have nylon bristles and you're gonna have some of them with brass bristles. The brass ones are great for cleaning router bits and table saw blades. So just a set of cheap brushes work great. You can also get at the dollar store some disposable knives, okay? Just those ones with the breakaway blades on them. Get some extra blades so they've got those as well, or just buy a whole bunch of cheap disposable ones, but always using a knife around the shop for cutting tape, cutting a little piece of something off of a project, or maybe opening a package they've just gotten. So always handy to have some knives around the shop. And one of the more recent ones that I picked up is the last item, and it's just a parts container. And what I use it for is putting Band-Aids in, because I got tired of sorting out my Band-Aids and keeping track of what I need and what I don't need to get when I go to the drugstore to pick things up. So lots of space for the big standard ones, the smaller ones, got some space for some of those ones that go on your fingers and your knuckles, and just different sizes and shapes for different applications. But that keeps them nice and organized, so you know if you're getting low on something, you can just go to the drugstore and pick it up. And I even got a little spot in here for some polysporin, just in case things get cut deep enough, I need it to heal a little bit better, faster. So that's a quick run through, roughly 10 or so items to get at a dollar store to help that woodworker in your life. So I hope that was helpful, and maybe some of that will find its way into somebody's stocking this year or under the tree. Until next time, go build something beautiful.